LMD Magazine and EFM present Biztalk, taking an in-depth look at today's biz landscape.
Welcome to another edition of Biztalk. This week we caught up with the current president of India's National Association of Software and Service Companies, or NASSCOM, Mr. R. Chandrasekhar, who was visiting Sri Lanka on the group's annual retreat. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Chandrasekhar. Getting straight down to business, the rapid growth in the offshoring industry achieved by countries like India and Sri Lanka now faces headwinds in the form of rhetoric and action by politicians in the West, like Donald Trump, who has called for scrapping HB1 visas, and Bernie Sanders from the left. How can the industry overcome this?
I think first and foremost we have to understand that at the time of election, a lot of things are said, but the key question is what are the fundamentals? And what are the underlying economics behind it, what's the economic rationale. And if you look at it, what is driving this whole industry, what is driving offshoring across the globe today is the fact that worldwide, in almost every country, there is a skill shortage. There is a shortage of skills. And if you look at the higher end of skills, and especially the skills required for the digital world, social media, mobility, analytics, cloud, Internet of Things, machine-to-machine communication, artificial intelligence, robotics, and so on. Even in a country like India, there is a shortage. So the reality is that these skills are not easily available across the world, and they are at a premium. There is a shortage. Also, all the projections by expert bodies, internationally, independent expert bodies, are that this shortage will increase, not decrease, by 2020 and by 2025. And by 2025, the shortage is likely to go up to as much as 90 to 100 million. Now, this is in spite of various countries being focused on the shortage and trying to enhance their skills. And why is this so? This is so because the skills that are required are changing so rapidly that it is a huge challenge to keep pace with that requirement. Skills that are required this year, by next year, it may change. The year after that, it will change. So the rapidity of this change is such that it is impossible for the formal educational system to keep pace with that. Because A, it is focused on knowledge, not on skills. And B, changing the whole curriculum takes time. There's a whole process involved behind it. And that can never keep pace with the changing needs of industry. So therefore, you need a combination of formal and non-formal education to keep pace with it. So having said that, the point therefore is that because in many countries, there are economic growth challenges, and at the same time there is a certain level of unemployment. But alongside the unemployment, there is also a skill shortage. So on one side you have unemployment among people who don't have skills, and on the other side you have shortage of people who have the skills. And this is a politically fairly complex challenge, especially when it comes to election time. And therefore you find many views floating around, and a populist view of protecting the local employment is very popular rhetorically, but the fact is that they do not meet the requirements of certain jobs. And therefore the real challenge for every country today is how much they can make their manpower skilled enough for this new world. So what we believe, therefore, is that this is something which ultimately will have to be determined by the realities of the availability of skills. It's not just that NASSCOM is saying it. In the US itself, US business houses, like the US Chamber of Commerce, the US India Business Council, and other US chambers of industry have said that this whole attempt by political groups to present the whole immigration program, and in particular the H1B program, as something which is very damaging to the US economy is thoroughly misplaced and will damage the US economy. So things are not always what they appear to be, and it's very easy at a political level to say you have all this unemployment and I'm going to do something about it by preventing skilled people from coming in. So this is actually completely far from the truth.
Even though Sri Lanka is fast emerging as an offshoring destination, it is very much unknown when you compare it to locations like Malaysia or the Philippines or even Eastern Europe. How are we to change this?
I think that, as I was mentioning, this industry is perpetually desperate for talent. So the one mantra which works in this industry, no matter which country you are in, is if you have skilled people who have the right set of skills. That is a sure shot winning proposition and a winning strategy. If you have the skills, then of course making it known is also important. But the struggle for high quality and high caliber resources is so high that once you have the talent, then people will find out about it and will come here. So in short, what I would say is that ensuring that the supply of talent is strong, and also do bear in mind that these equations in terms of demand and supply are not looked at on a country basis. They are looked at globally. So if you create highly skilled manpower, that doesn't mean Sri Lanka has a lot of skilled manpower. Many of them may actually leave and go for opportunities elsewhere. So the calculation always has to be global, but you have to be seen as a provider and creator of a lot of that talent. And the rest, of course, will follow, but a little support by the government, by the industry in terms of promotion, all of that is important as well.
Disruptive technologies like social media, mobile analytics, and the cloud are revolutionizing industries. How is the offshoring industry coping with this?
Well, these new technologies today are disrupting almost every sphere of human activity. They are disrupting commerce, retailing, but they are also disrupting social sectors, healthcare, education, disrupting core infrastructure like energy. So all of these are having profound impact on other sectors. But this sector is not only disrupting other sectors, it's disrupting itself as well. So a lot of the jobs which this sector created within itself are getting automated and disrupted. And therefore, if I were to summarize it in one sentence, the need for skills is increasingly moving to the higher end, and at the lower end they are increasingly getting automated. And thirdly, value is getting created outside of the IT sector, but because of the IT sector. These are the three essential features of the dynamic that's in place now.
Sri Lanka and India are working towards finalizing the Economic and Technology Cooperation Agreement, or ETCA, which is envisaging to include IT as well. What is NASSCOM's view on that, and is it a win-win for both nations?
We believe that in this ICT sector today, it is a truly global sector. And for this sector to have its full impact, and for a society and an economy to derive the full benefit of a digital transformation, you need to have a free movement of three things. Technology, because anywhere in the world it's the same technologies which are being used, it's the same products which are being used. The second is data. Data has to move freely. The way the internet operates, the way global data centers are managed, data moves around at lightning speed. It's completely dynamically managed. And the moment you try to put artificial fetters, you bring in inefficiency. And the third is skilled people. At the end of the day, this is driven by skilled people. Not only to create the technologies, but even to operate it. And if you don't have access to enough skilled people, then you are either going to have suboptimal operations or fairly insecure and failure-prone operations. So the free movement of all of these three is critical. Preserving jobs is important. Trying to indigenize is important. But it is not important enough for people to lose the economic multiplier which the application of these technologies can create. And that's the first objective. And because globally there is a shortage, and it is assured that such shortages will continue for the next decade, it's equally important to try to be a part of that global supply chain of talent itself.
Cybersecurity and data protection are major issues that are confronting the industry now. What can Sri Lanka learn from India's approach?
I think cybersecurity is a growing issue. It's a growing concern globally. It is almost certain that this will remain an issue going forward, and that we may never have a completely secure cyberspace. But a lot of things can be done to make it more secure than it is. A lot of steps can be taken by countries and by industry to make themselves more secure. And this is unfortunately an imperative in the world going forward tomorrow. Here again, the issue of skills is as prevalent, probably even more acute than in the rest of the IT sector. That's certainly one area. And the second is to promote practices which lead to cybersecurity, because cybersecurity is not merely a technology issue, it is as much about practice and making people aware of what are the practices which you need to follow in order to be secure. It is not simply a question of a service provider or a particular technology or a particular platform. It's also a question of the behavior of individuals and how they conduct themselves in cyberspace. So all of these require a huge body of work, and especially in countries where there are variable levels of literacy and digital literacy, this is a constant effort which is required as newer and newer set of people enter the digital world.
Rising wages and attracting and retaining talent is a critical issue confronting the offshoring industry in both India and Sri Lanka. How can we overcome this issue?
It is not possible to try to localize anything in this industry, as I said, for the precise reason that this is a truly global industry and a truly global workforce as well. And one has to create all the elements required for it with the full knowledge that these will be globally mobile, that you cannot hold on to them. Ultimately, individuals have to plan their lives based on what they think is good for them. Somebody would like to optimize his professional potential, somebody would like to optimize his skills, somebody would like to optimize his salary, somebody would like to optimize his happiness and his connect with his family and remain back home. These are all individual decisions. They cannot be taken as a policy by any country. And therefore, there is, however, an overall dynamic at work which has to be understood and factored into the planning.
Now, of course, people have a tendency to gravitate towards developed nations from developing nations. How are these developing nations to benefit from those citizens who leave?
I think, the experience of India is useful in this context. That there are no such restrictions whatsoever in India on the talent that is being created. If you create a talent pool and they leave, just create some more. Because, as I said, people will always look for opportunities for themselves and for their families. But what we have seen in India, because we have witnessed in the 60s, 70s and 80s a huge drain out of India. But in the last couple of decades, we have witnessed the reverse flow as well. The flow outward continues unabated, but the reverse flow also has increased substantially. And therefore, this talent which goes out is not lost forever in today's world. Much of it will come back. And what we find is that if you can offer even 50 to 75% of the professional opportunity and satisfaction, and 50 to 75% of the physical quality of life in those countries, there is more than enough reason for people to come back, because the non-physical, non-financial aspects of life in your home country always are a big draw for anybody. And in addition, I think there is also the question of purchasing power parity and so many other things, and the Asian values or the Indian or Sri Lankan values, which I think have an impact in individuals' decision making. It's just that the gap should not be so wide that people feel tempted or obligated to remain there in order to do whatever they think is best for their family. So I think that the desire to return home is also quite strong. The challenge is to make it feasible for people to follow that.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me. It's really a pleasure to interact with you, with EFM, and through you, with whoever may be listening in to your programs. And it's wonderful to be here. Sri Lanka is a wonderful country, beautiful country, wonderful people. It's a pleasure to meet and talk to people who are friendly, warm and nice. And I do hope that we will be able to build a strong relationship in this particular sector as well. Thank you so much.
Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for more insights from our business community. You can also log on to efm.lk and lmd.lk/lmdtv for a visual experience of Biztalk.